With this coronavirus issue. As you are aware, at 11:30 this morning, we will have another press brief on coronavirus at the Ministry of Health. But welcome to this particular press briefing this morning. And I am joined by the Minister of Justice, Honorable vows Lubinda, our Chief Whip at Parliament, Honorable Brian Munduvile, and also Member of Parliament for Chembe, Honorable Kopilande, and of course our peers here, Mr. Amos Malupenga and other colleagues from the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting. This press brief today is specifically on one subject, and this is the matter of Bill 10. I wish to believe that is the circular that went through to the media. Let me start by saying that for a long time, I have been saying it's extremely important for media houses to have facts. I have been quite perturbed today by some of the headlines in the paper, such as Deepak stops Bill 10 derailed. I was in Parliament the whole afternoon yesterday, and I do not recall that there was any ruling by the Speaker relating to Deepak that derailed Bill 10. My recollection is very clear that the Speaker reserved a ruling on a point of order raised by Honorable Gary Nkombo, but actually presented a ruling on 2 points of order raised on Tuesday by Honorable Jack Mwimbu and yesterday by Honorable Malonzo Sichone on the coronavirus, and that on those two matters the Speaker was very clear and made a ruling. So the headlines today are not factual, and I wish to appeal to my colleagues in the industry that even if your wishful thinking is to have those headlines, but at least wait until the facts come out. Let us not create facts that are not there, that are not true, because as far as I am aware, and government is aware, the Speaker made no ruling relating to Deepak for him to be able to derail, as the headlines are saying, Bill 10. So government wanted to be very, very clear that these attempts to try and mislead the citizens are stopped in their tracks. At this point, I'll ask Honorable vows Lubinda, who's the Minister of Justice, to set the record straight for all of us. Minister.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Let me start by explaining that there are special circumstances, very, very special circumstances under which proceedings of Parliament may be stopped. Very special circumstances. And when Parliament resumes, you will be informed whether this is one of those special circumstances. Secondly, let me make it abundantly clear that the journey that we started on the 9th of November 2016, a journey that has been extremely consultative, a journey for which we have a lot of support from the citizenry, a journey that is for the current and future generations of Zambia, cannot possibly be curtailed by machinations of one or two people or one or two groupings. This is a people's process. Yesterday, Parliament adjourned on a matter of emergency. It was not prorogued. Meaning, therefore, that when Parliament reconvenes, the order paper of yesterday shall be the order paper of the first day of sitting of Parliament. Simply put, the consideration of second reading of Bill 10 will be on the order paper on the first day when Parliament is reconvened. This I have to make abundantly clear. No one must have any imagination that consideration of Bill 10 has been removed from Parliament, because it has not. I'm very excited to see the level of panic amongst those who have been campaigning against Bill 10. There's no doubt in my mind that they have had several attempts, and my colleague, Chief Whip, who has been managing Parliament, will speak to that. But it's very abundant that there's been panic, and that panic excites me. It excites me because it is clear that they too are not convinced with what they are doing. I'd like to appeal through you, members of the press, to all citizens of Zambia to inform each other on the good intentions of Bill 10. I want to appeal also to members of Cabinet. You may recall that over the last 1 week I've been praising my colleagues in Cabinet for having restrained themselves from commenting on the content of Bill 10. Now, I want to appeal to all of them publicly. I don't want to go and wait for Cabinet meeting. I want to appeal to them through the press, and I apologize to them. I'm appealing to all Cabinet ministers through the press. This is a godsend. The adjournment, as far as I'm concerned, is a godsend. During the time now, from the adjournment of Parliament to the next sitting of Parliament, this is our time to also go out to the people. Over the last 3 years, we were quiet, and we were just informing the people through Parliament. Now it is our time also to engage the citizenry, to inform them about the good intentions of Bill 10. Let us go out there and tell the disabled people that Bill 10 intends to provide for them space, safe seats in Parliament. The women of Zambia, for a long time, have spoken that they are not adequately represented in institutions of governance. If we don't start with them being included in Parliament, how can we possibly expect them to be included in councils? This is the right starting point. The youths, this is the time for you to also be heard. We'll use this period to make sure we do what I said we'll do, to campaign for the good intentions of Bill 10. And in winding up, let me just join all the others in commiserating with the disabled people who were harassed yesterday. In a democracy such as the one that we run, it is totally diabolical for anyone to hurt, either in speech or indeed physically, a person who simply lobbies you to see their view of matters. Democracy is all about exchanging ideas, not fists. Those disabled people on their wheelchairs, with their canes, with their walking sticks, people who can hardly defend themselves, all they wanted was to appeal to leaders of the country to see things from their perspective, for them to receive insults and physical abuse is totally regrettable. Totally regrettable. And I pray to God that He will give all of us the strength to engage in civil dialogue over these matters. When you are called to a forum such as a meeting of equals, go and participate in those meetings. Don't stay away. Because when you stay away, when they follow you, you react the way they reacted yesterday. You react violently. No one should possess an opinion which they don't want to expose to other people's criticism, because that opinion is useless. If you want to maintain an opinion, make sure it is brought to public scrutiny. Let people scrutinize it. And after everybody has agreed, then you can say this is a good opinion. So please, my dear members of the press, inform our citizens that no one should make the mistake of thinking that the adjournment of Parliament means stoppage of the process of Bill 10. That process can only be stopped by Parliament itself and nobody else. I thank you.
Shall we just... Are those okay? They're fine? Okay. The Chief Whip, Honorable Mandela, will also say something.
Thank you very much. I'll start by acknowledging the presence of the Minister of Information and the Honorable Minister of Justice, and indeed my colleague, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chembe. I'll start by stating that Parliament operates under the principle of exclusive cognizance, which states that the proceedings of Parliament cannot be interfered with by anyone or any institution. It's therefore correct, as my colleagues have earlier stated, that there was no interference whatsoever in the proceedings of Parliament, as is being alleged in the newspapers. No individual, no institution can interfere with the operations of Parliament under the principle of exclusive cognizance. Now, let me also state that as parliamentarians, we have one solemn duty, and that is to represent the people that we serve. Over Bill 10, we've repeatedly appealed to honorable members of Parliament to go back to their constituencies, listen to their people, and bring the views and aspirations of their people to Parliament. I think the past 1 year has been an interesting one, even for you, the media. I know that we've interacted on a number of occasions where at times we've been confused. What really is in Bill 10? And what was discovered was that many a time, and many people that were commenting on Bill 10 had never read the document at all. I remember challenging the media to say, just take time to read and understand whether what is being said is what is content. We came to the committee report. We again challenged our colleagues in the opposition. Go to the committee report and understand what is there and bring out what you think is not desirable. So now the time came when the Justice Minister came out in the open, addressed the press, and gave a statement as regards cabinet position on the committee recommendation. And the people of Zambia were now very interested. They wanted to know who was telling the truth between those that said Bill 10 was evil and what Honorable Lubinda was saying. There were a number of arguments that were brought out. People saying we can't trust what they're saying. Honorable Lubinda said, I've been directed by Cabinet to state the position of Cabinet, to say I'll move these notice of amendments. So quite frankly, what Zambians must now know is that if those that are opposed to Bill 10 were telling the truth or stating facts as they pronounced, enough to come on the floor of the House and argue their points. Honorable Lubinda took a lot of time on the floor of the House. So did other members of Parliament. Now, for those that have been speaking very loudly on radios, intercontinental platforms, other TV stations, they had an opportunity for the Zambian people now to know what really is contained in Bill 10. And I'm sure that we are all now comfortable. We know who's been telling the truth about what is contained in Bill 10. I received a number of petitions, especially yesterday, from unions, the disabled, and the rest of them. And then we began to imagine what is running in the minds of those MPs that are staying out. If we all claim that we're saving the people, 1.7 million differently abled people represented, they brought a petition. Are the MPs saying they do not in any way in those constituencies represent the differently abled? The unions of employees were in my office yesterday, you must have seen it. They were saying we wanted to go with Bill 10 now that we have fully understood it. The students were at my office yesterday, the youths and the women. So if we say we are representatives of the people, if it's not these categories that I've stated, which people are we representing? So we are happy that the Zambians are now able to see, they are now sure of who's been telling the truth about Bill 10. Because you go through the document, you go through the statements that have been made, we all know that we will soon have a constitution that is going to last the test of time. Many of you, the journalists, I remember you took turns to ask whether we're comfortable with the numbers. And I think the answers that we gave were that it's not a question of numbers. It was about the content. What do the Zambians want? What have they told their MPs? So our friends yesterday, realizing that we were in excess of 130 MPs that came out openly to say we're going to support this Bill 10, it sent them into panic, raising frivolous points of order just to disrupt. And you can tell from the headlines that they're predetermined headlines because they wanted to disrupt the proceedings. Now, if at all they were confident that the numbers that opposed to Bill 10 were more, and that we could not push it through Parliament. Why the panic? They should have allowed the process to collapse. So I want to thank all those honourable members of Parliament, especially from the opposition, that came out clearly to stand with their people. That is what is expected of members of Parliament. A constitution, like we stated earlier, is a document of conscience. We don't issue 3-line whips in times like that, because we want, otherwise you're going to set your people against their chiefs. You set your people against the youths, against the women, against the differently abled. That is why, as PF, we say there will be no 3-line whip. Listen to your people and come and argue your case on the floor. So we are very, very happy that the process is going smoothly. Like we said earlier, sooner than later, once the authorities and the Minister of Health have directed and resumed Parliament, we'll take it to second reading and vote, and we'll have a new constitution. So want Zambians to be excited that a new constitution is coming, a constitution that is going to speak to their aspirations. I thank you.
Okay, my colleagues, we are now able to take questions on this matter. No one has any questions? Maybe for clarity, I'll start. Chief Whip, just for clarity, why did Parliament adjourn yesterday?
Parliament adjourned yesterday on account of the coronavirus. The Minister of Health had made a statement earlier that there were 2 confirmed cases of coronavirus. And of course, as a ministry, they assessed the risks. And looking at the environment in Parliament, we sit neck to neck, side by side. And clearly, it was a very huge risk. We have information of other parliaments, in other countries where all members of Parliament were infected. So very clearly, we adjourned yesterday on account of the coronavirus. And I think Mr. Speaker was very clear. He did not rule on the other point of order that was raised by Honorable Gary Kombu. He reserved his ruling, but made the ruling on the points of order that were raised on coronavirus. And as provided for by standing orders number 33, where it says the leader of government business in the House, number one. Standing orders number 33.1. A motion of adjournment of the House shall not be made until immediately before public business is entered upon. However, in an emergency, the leader of government business in the House may at any time seek leave of the House to adjourn the House with prior permission from the Speaker. So given the importance of the risk of coronavirus, Honor the Vice President, who's the leader of government business, sought permission from the Speaker to move a motion of adjournment. And that is exactly what happened.
Okay. The headlines are saying Bill 10 stopped by DPAC. What's the impact of this so-called court process means?
The members of the press, with regard to that, all I'll do is refer you to a similar matter that was brought before the Constitutional Court. You may recall that the Law Association of Zambia brought an action against the President and Attorney General in the National Assembly, again over Bill 10. And the court pronounced itself very clearly that nobody can stop Parliament in its legislative program. It was very clear. The court said to the petitioners, if you want to challenge the bill, wait until Parliament has debated it. Only then can you challenge it. And what are we doing now in Parliament? We're looking at a bill called Bill 10. And if you're going to follow precedence, the precedence is there. It's very clear. So I don't think that this is a matter that should create any panic. Any citizen has the right to challenge any part of the Constitution or any wing of government. And Deepak Patel is in his own right to go to the court and say, can you please cite this one and this one for breaching the Constitution? And the courts will handle that matter. But that is not a matter that brings in the National Assembly. The National Assembly is not a party to that matter. From what I understand, that matter is Deepak Patel suing the Minister of Finance and suing the Attorney General. The National Assembly has not been joined to the matter. And I'm sure that Right Honorable Speaker of the National Assembly today will study that matter, and at his own time he will pass his ruling on the matter, and that ruling will have to be made in Parliament. And this is the reason I'm saying to you that if indeed Parliament is not to debate Bill 10, the instruction will not come from outside Parliament. The instruction will be made within Parliament by the authorities of Parliament, not any person. So it is rather trivial and mischievous for anyone to say Deepak Patel has derailed Bill 10. That's extremely mischievous, because Deepak Patel has not derailed Bill 10 at all. The court hasn't even received the court papers. How can anyone possibly say he has derailed? The court hasn't read the petition yet. The Speaker hasn't read the petition. How could anyone just come up with that strange notion that Deepak Patel has derailed Parliament? No. Don't give him unnecessary credit. He has gone to court, and his matter will be determined by the competent courts of law. Let's not judge that matter in the press. Leave it to the courts.
Any questions? Yes, please.
During the debate, the time when...
Your name first and the institution.
My name is Augustine from Hoteton. I want to find out from you, are you comfortable that you're going to pass this bill looking at that you're falling short of the numbers and your friends are adamant that they will not support this bill? And then just clarity, can you clarify social media where they are writing to say some MPs are demanding to be paid, like others have been paid, so they have said the UPNP to MPs. Just
maybe you start.
Yeah, thank you very much. I don't agree with you that we fell short of numbers, because we never even got to the stage of voting. Remember that the MPs represent their people. I remember having a meeting with a number of opposition members of parliament who put it clearly to say we're waiting to hear Honorable Lubinda deliver a statement. And it's from there now that we will know whether the instructions that we've been given are congruent to what the minister has put forth. And immediately he put his statement. They made it very clear. You must ask yourselves what sent the UPND in panic, because they had disagreements within themselves. Others said we'll stand with the people. So as regards the numbers, we're very comfortable. And yesterday we were geared to, pass the constitution.
The second one, but other MPs want to be paid.
Why should we pay MPs? Who is going to pay those MPs? MPs are members of parliament representing their people. So if at all an MP has been given instructions by his people, he comes to parliament and decides otherwise, he's answerable to the constitution. So it's not up to anyone, to pay the other. Remember, parliament is there to make laws. On our side, we've been very transparent. We were not going in there, crossing our fingers. We were saying we will go there as individual MPs representing our people. I went in there to speak for the people of Mporokoso. Honorable Silia was speaking for the people of Petauke. Honorable Lubinda for the people of Kawata. For as long as I discharged that function, the rest did not matter. If the ultimate position was that the constitution was rejected, it meant that, first of all, we are accountable to our people. Is that what our people wanted? So no one has been paid, no one has been quoted for any payment. These are speculations that must be dispelled with the contempt that they deserve.
If I may add to this, the issue of money always seems to take center stage when matters like this occur. But as a parliamentarian myself, I feel extremely demeaned when anybody develops the suspicion that as a member of parliament, I can be moved by pieces of silver, that I'm available for sale, that my conscience can be changed because somebody has dangled money. And I think that's speaking on behalf of all the members of parliament, because I hold every member of parliament in great esteem. If indeed there is any member of parliament who has gone out and said, I have been paid, then that member of parliament surely must not deserve to be in that parliament. I don't think there is any member of parliament who can sink so low as to sell their principles for pieces of silver. Seeing that the government today is the Patriotic Front government, you may recall that the majority of members of parliament, even when government was legitimately giving allowances on a matter of the National Constitutional Conference, what did they do? The PF members of parliament, the majority of them said, no, we will stay away. People were capable of resisting being paid legitimately. How could they possibly now come around and say, pay us? So I want to assure you that if such a thing is happening, it's happening to people who, or to members of parliament whose morality is questionable. What is important for me is to ask the question, on a matter of the Constitution, which Chief Whip has spoken about very eloquently as a matter of conscience, should anybody quarantine another? That's a question we must ask. We are aware of the fact that members of the UPND, the night before last, were all quarantined. Why were they quarantined? And by the way, this was the first time they have done that. When we were electing Speaker Patrick Matibini in 2011, a similar thing occurred. Whereas members of PF, members of MMD were free to roam around, to mix with others, to argue and debate and lobby each other, members of the UPND were quarantined at Christmas Hotel. That's where they were quarantined. And the night before last, they were quarantined. Why were they quarantined? I've said before that we are elected on political party tickets, but we're not elected only by our political party members. There's not a single person who can win simply because they've been elected only by their members. We're all elected by citizens of Zambia. And when it comes to the supreme law of the land, our party political constitutions become irrelevant. This is the reason why the PF has said there is no three-line whip. There is no possibility for President Edgar Chagwa Lungu to tell me about my faith. I may be a Buddhist. When I go to, I should not lose my Buddhism. I must stand with my Buddhism faith. But to invoke a three-line whip is to say, throw away your personal conscience. We will think on your behalf. A political party that imposes thought on their members of parliament is a very dangerous political party, because it's a party that has shown you it is also capable of thinking they can impose their thoughts on the citizens of Zambia. For us in the Patriotic Front, we take a very strong stand that all those 160 members of parliament, when they sit in the National Assembly, they represent the 17 million population of Zambia today, and they represent posterity. And therefore they must be allowed to exercise their free conscience. We can therefore not start dangling money to anybody. We don't even have the luxury of money. We ourselves as a political party need money. How could we start dangling money to buy people's conscience? We cannot. And Mr. Situla, like my colleague said, hadn't we the numbers, I can assure you that those strange points of order wouldn't have come. Because it is in their interest to collapse Bill 10. So they should have said, quickly, let's vote. I'm sure that when Mr. Speaker said, I'm going to make a ruling on the coronavirus, they should have said, no, before coronavirus, let's vote, because we know you don't have the numbers. Let's defeat you. But when Mr. Speaker was saying, I've allowed her honor the Vice President, when she was reading her motion, you could hear the ululation from outside. Yes, jeering. On the benches of the PF, the ministers, all of us were solemn. Solemn for two reasons. Solemn because of the devastating effect of the coronavirus on humankind, but also solemn because we thought we were delaying the process of delivering the Constitution as people have asked us to do. Thank you, Minister.
Any other questions? The ladies there? My lady in the corner there? Nobody. Okay, let me just say this. Thank you so much for coming. I think it's important that you follow up on these issues. I think let's be in the forefront, the media, on the issues of the Constitution, but also on the issues of Corona. I think on my wall of inspiration there's a quote from Warren Buffett, that if indeed the personnel in the media are some of the most intelligent people in society, that society is better off, because you have to interpret a lot of things for the citizens. You have to be able to crystallize medical issues such as Corona, legal issues such as the Constitution. So we are counting on you on being in the front line so that we don't get fake headlines about things that didn't happen, even though people wish them to have happened. But if they did happen, it's not a fact. And a decent media house should not peddle in fake news. So we are counting on you on both Corona and on Bill 10. Let us be factual. Thank you so much for coming. See you at 11:30.